April 3, 1943, 2:14 hours, North Atlantic, 600 miles west of Ireland. The wind is a living thing tonight, howling, clawing, ripping across the heaving black water. Waves slam against the steel hull of convoy HX-231 like artillery blasts. The merchant ships groan under the strain, their decks washed in freezing spray. Somewhere in the darkness, men shout orders that are instantly torn away by the gale, and beneath it all, something else. A sudden, unnerving quiet on the wireless. The radio operator aboard the destroyer HMS Highlander adjusts his headphones, frowning. The familiar crackle of German U-boat transmissions, usually a constant background menace, has vanished. For hours now, not a single Enigma encoded burst. No contact reports, no wolfpack coordination, just silence, and that silence terrifies him more than the storm. He leans toward the captain. "Sir, the band's gone dead, entirely." Captain Gordon Tate doesn't look up from the map table. He's seen too many convoys ripped apart, too many nights like this dissolve into chaos and fire. But this is different. He taps the map with a pencil, slow and deliberate. "If they're quiet," he says, almost to himself, "it means they're moving." A chill crawls up the operator's spine, because everyone in the North Atlantic knows the truth. U-boats never stay quiet unless they're hunting. Far away, lightning rips open the sky, revealing a brief, brutal snapshot. 12 merchant hulls battling the storm, the Highlander pitching in the lead, every man aboard aware that somewhere in the black water below, steel predators are closing in. The convoy braces for an attack that could come from anywhere, but instead, nothing. Minutes stretch, then an hour, then two. Not a single torpedo wake breaks the surface. Not a single U-boat periscope is spotted. Not a single order flashes across the German network. It's as if the wolfpack has vanished. What the Highlander's crew doesn't know, what none of the sailors fighting for survival in the Atlantic can possibly imagine, is that the silence isn't German strategy. It's British, or rather, hers. Hundreds of miles away, in a cramped, smoke-filled hut at Bletchley Park, a 26-year-old cryptanalyst sits hunched over a desk littered with intercept sheets. Her pencil scratches in controlled, rapid strokes. Her brow is furrowed, her tea long gone cold. The overhead lamp casts a harsh circle of light around her, as she mutters quiet calculations only she can follow. Her name is Joan Clarke. To most of the men in the armed forces, she doesn't exist. To the Admiralty, she is a footnote. To the public, she won't be known for decades. But to the Allied convoys out in that storm, right now, she is the thin, invisible line between life and oblivion. Joan pushes back her glasses and scans the room. Rows of analysts tap away at typewriters, slide rules, and early electromechanical machines. Cigarette smoke curls along the ceiling. Somewhere in the distance, a bomb machine drones like a metallic heartbeat. But only Joan has seen the pattern. Only she has realized what the Germans changed. And only she understands why it didn't work. She taps her notebook, a string of variables, probability curves, and long chains of frequencies. Her method, deep statistical analysis of U-boat message structures, is unlike anyone else's at Bletchley. It doesn't just break ciphers, it predicts them. For days she has tracked anomalies in the U-boat command network, subtle irregularities, shifts in operator habits, mistimed transmissions, and then, one breakthrough variable, a statistical irregularity so small most analysts dismissed it. But Joan didn't. She knew what it meant. A window, a flaw in the Atlantic Enigma key schedule, one she could exploit. Her pencil pauses. She looks at the numbers again, heart pounding. If she's wrong, the next convoy will be ambushed. If she's right, the U-boats will be blind. She whispers, almost breathless, "They won't know where the ships are." Her supervisor rushes over as she begins assembling her final deductions, each line tightening the noose around the German wolfpacks. If Admiralty acts fast, convoy HX-231 will slip through a gap the Germans don't know they've opened. The thought sends a swell of adrenaline through her. For the first time all night, Joan feels hope. She hands the final sheet to the duty officer. "Send this to the Operational Intelligence Center, now." He reads the numbers, eyes widening. "Are you certain?" She meets his gaze. "Quite." Outside, rain batters the windows. The ancient oak trees bend in the storm. But inside Hut 8, something shifts, an electric sense that the balance in the Atlantic, after years of slaughter, might finally be tilting. Because tonight, a convoy isn't being attacked. Tonight, it is being missed. And the reason why sits quietly at her desk, already reaching for a new stack of intercepts. But Joan doesn't yet know that this breakthrough, the one she scribbled in the dead of night, will change the trajectory of the entire Battle of the Atlantic, and that the Germans are about to notice. The rain hasn't let up. By dawn, Bletchley Park looks like a ghostly estate half drowned in mist. Figures in greatcoats hurry across puddled courtyards, clutching folders marked most secret. A lorry rumbles past the main gate, its headlights carving two pale cones through the fog. Inside Hut 8, the air is thick with overnight exhaustion. Coffee cups, ash-filled trays, the low, constant hum of the bomb machines gnawing through permutations like mechanical wolves. And Joan Clarke, still in the same seat, still surrounded by her fortress of data. She flips through a stack of freshly delivered intercepts. Raw German naval traffic pulled from listening stations in Scarborough and Iceland. Each message is a puzzle box, groups of 5 letters that mean nothing until suddenly, with the right key, they mean everything. A young wren places another sheet on Joan's desk. New take from HF Station Redbridge, ma'am. Joan nods, but the moment she touches the paper her pulse quickens. The spacing, the timestamp, the operator's signature buried in the metadata. She's seen this sender before. The same U-boat radio man who made a tiny, predictable mistake 3 nights ago. A slight rhythm in message length that shouldn't exist in a perfectly random Enigma environment. Most analysts chalked it up to operator fatigue. Joan didn't. She studies the sheet, eyes racing line by line. You can almost feel her mind sharpening, snapping into alignment with the rhythm of the cipher. Her fingers drum lightly on the desk. 5 beats. Pause. 3 beats. She mouths the variables: chi, psi, shift frequency, crib viability. Then she freezes. There it is. A pattern he repeated. Unintentional, subtle, but consistent enough to be statistically significant. And if he's repeated it again this morning, it means something astonishing. The Germans have not fully rotated their Atlantic Enigma settings. For the first time in months, a fatal crack. A window of vulnerability. Joan's pencil scratches furiously across her notebook. She constructs a probability lattice, something only she and Hut 8 uses regularly. It's a method far beyond traditional cribbing or pure bomb reliance. It's predictive, dynamic, alive. She mutters, if he kept the same offset, just one sloppy variable. Her breath catches. The lattice aligns. She glances up at the duty officer. I need the last 3 U-boat movement logs. Now. He hesitates. No one requests those unless they're on the brink of something big, something breakthrough level. But he rushes anyway. When the logs arrive, Joan lays them out like evidence on a courtroom table. Her pupils constrict as she scans the data. U-boat positions, convoy routes, wolfpack directives. Then she overlays her predicted key shifts. They match. Perfectly. Her heart thunders in her chest. This isn't luck. This isn't a fluke. It's the radio man's mistake. A tiny human flaw in an otherwise flawless machine. Joan whispers, barely audible. This gives us their patrol lines. At that exact moment, deep in the Operational Intelligence Center in London, naval officers are already reacting to her overnight dispatch. A change of course, a zig instead of a zag, a convoy route adjusted by mere nautical miles, just enough to slide off the German grid. They think it's intuition. It isn't. It's her. Hut 8 suddenly erupts with movement as new intercepts arrive, and Joan's predictions continue to hold. Each decrypted message nudges the Allied picture into focus. The position of Wolfpack, Seawolf, the timing of their rendezvous, their planned ambush points. Her supervisor strides into the room, face pale. Clarke, your analysis from last night. The Admiralty says HX-231 reported no contacts. Not one. Joan exhales slowly. Relief, vindication, but also something else, fear. Because if she can see this pattern, eventually, so will the Germans. She knows operators get reprimanded, replaced, tightened, corrected. Every mistake is temporary. Every crack heals. This window won't stay open long. Her supervisor lowers his voice. They want to know how long you can hold this advantage. Joan stares at the intercepts, her mind carving through probabilities, timelines, enemy habits, and the fragile structure of the cipher. Hours, she says finally. Maybe less. A silence settles between them, a heavy one. He nods. Then we'd best use them. Joan returns to her desk, intensity renewing like a fresh tide. Because she can feel it, an approaching shift. A change in the German network. Something big enough to either expose her work or destroy the Allied advantage entirely. And somewhere in the Atlantic, one U-boat radio man is about to correct his mistake. When he does, the window will slam shut. But before it does, Joan intends to break everything she can. Morning edges across Bletchley Park in thin, gray light. The storm that drowned the night has passed, leaving behind a landscape washed clean but unnervingly still. Inside Hut 8, however, the tension has only sharpened. Joan Clarke hasn't left her desk. Fresh intercepts arrive every few minutes, slipped onto her table by exhausted WRNS runners. Each one carries the same danger, the possibility that the Germans have corrected the flaw she's exploiting. She rifles through the newest sheet, 5-letter groups, timestamps, operator signatures. Her jaw tightens. This one is different. The spacing is tighter, the rhythm more precise. The radio man has changed. Someone new, someone meticulous. The window is closing. Joan presses her fingertips against her temples, then forces herself back into focus. She sketches another probability lattice, this one more volatile, its branches twisting like storm winds through the ink. A single variable, one she hasn't confirmed, could shatter the entire structure. Around her, the hut buzzes with activity. Machines clatter, chairs scrape across the wooden floor. A courier from the Admiralty steps into the doorway, water still dripping from his greatcoat. "Any updates on the Atlantic Key?" he asks. Joan doesn't look up. Potential shift. Too early to confirm. He swallows hard. The Admiralty doesn't like. Too early. Convoys hang on timeliness measured in heartbeats. Every hour that passes without certainty is an hour where sailors drift deeper into blind waters. Joan adjusts her glasses and returns to the message. She traces the operator line, 12-584/P. A new signature. The sloppy one is gone. She senses the danger before she can fully define it, like feeling a tremor on the deck before you hear the depth charge explode. She turns to her supervisor. "They've replaced him. The operator we were tracking." He blinks. "Already?" "Yes. The new one isn't making the spacing error. They must have realized something was off, or someone noticed the irregularity in message length." He leans forward. "Does this close the window?" "Not yet." Joan points to her lattice, tapping a branch that diverges sharply. "They changed the operator, but they haven't changed the bigram tables." Her supervisor exhales a shaky breath. "So we still have their positions?" "For now. But once they rotate those tables." She lets the sentence hang. "Everyone knows what happens when the Germans rotate the Atlantic tables. Total blackout. Convoys sailing blind into the wolves' jaws. At that exact moment, hundreds of miles away, U-744 knifes through the murky Atlantic, periscope just above the surface. Inside the cramped steel tube, radio man Oberstfighter Kurt Rotman tightens his grip on the message pad. His predecessor had been removed from wireless duty 2 nights earlier. "Sloppy habits," the watch officer said. Rotman intends to make no such mistakes. He types his Enigma groups with mechanical precision, unaware that a young woman in an English manner has been reading his colleagues' mistakes like cracks in glass. Unaware that her calculations are the reason tonight's rendezvous point yielded nothing but empty ocean. Unaware that the wolf pack is hunting ghosts. The watch officer leans over him. "Confirmed transmission." Rotman nods and sends the burst. The message screams through the ether, clean, sharp, perfect. And for Joan Clarke, catastrophic. The effect hits almost instantly. A runner bursts into Hut 8, waving a new intercept. Fresh signal. Atlantic band. The room gathers around as Joan reads the sheet, her heart sinking. The spacing is flawless, the rhythm immaculate, the operator signature completely new. She marks 2 lines in red pencil, then circles a third. Her voice is steady but cold. "They've corrected the pattern. Our window is closing." Her supervisor asks quietly, "Can we guess their next move?" She shakes her head. "Only if the operator makes a human error. But this one, he's disciplined." The entire hut seems to dim. War isn't just fought with steel and explosives, it's fought with minds. And right now, Joan can feel the German radio man on the other end of the cipher. Methodical, focused, a ghost she'll never meet, yet must outthink. The Admiralty courier steps forward. "Is it over?" Joan meets his eyes. "No, not yet." Because in the last line of the message, obscured by precision, almost invisible, there's something unexpected. A timing slip. A single character delay in the operator's key stream. So minute most analysts would never notice it. But Joan does. Her pulse spikes. If she can model that delay, if she can recalculate the drift, if the Germans don't rotate their bigram tables for just a few more hours, she begins scribbling furiously, her pencil carving new probabilities with razor-like intent. Her supervisor watches, breath held. "Clarke, what did you just see?" Joan doesn't answer, but the look in her eyes is unmistakable. A new pattern, fragile, dangerous, but real. And if she's right, the Allies won't just avoid a wolf pack ambush, they might ambush the wolf pack instead. Joan's pencil snaps. She doesn't even notice. She just grabs another and keeps writing, ripping new lines of calculation across the page. Around her, Hut 8 seems to fade, voices muffled, footsteps distant, the machines a dull hum under the roar of her own heartbeat. Because the timing slip she saw should not be possible. Not with a disciplined operator, not with corrected procedures, not with the new Enigma setting. But it's there, A microscopic hesitation in the transmission start time. Too small for the Admiralty to notice. Too small for the bomb operators. Too small for anyone but someone who has spent months living inside these patterns. Joan leans closer to the sheet. 0.3 of a second late. Insignificant to most. Catastrophic to the Enigma's theoretical perfection. She traces the delay across her probability lattice. The drift forms a curve. The curve forms a model. And the model reveals a truth that makes her sit up straight. The operator is using a different key sheet, not the official rotation, not today's designated Atlantic key, something else, something older. Her eyes narrow. Why would he do that? Her supervisor hovers. Clarke, what do you see? She spreads out the intercepts, aligning them like puzzle pieces on a map. Her fingers shake, not with fear, but with the electricity of realization. He's not following procedure, she says softly. He's rushing, or he's improvising. Either way, he's introduced detectable drift. She draws a line across 2 intercepts, marking the shift. And that drift, she whispers, means we can reverse engineer his rotor positions. The room goes still. Someone mutters, "That's impossible." "It's unlikely," Joan corrects. "Not impossible." A silence follows, the kind of silence when everyone knows they're staring at something historic. Meanwhile, far out in the Atlantic, U-744 rides low in the water, engines grumbling beneath the hull. Radio man Rotman wipes sweat from his brow. He knows the Wolfpack is days behind schedule. He knows their last rendezvous point showed nothing. And he knows the commandant is furious. The watch officer growls, "Faster, Rotman! Berlin wants transmission confirmation." Rotman nods and reconfigures the machine. He is too fast, too tense, too human. He misaligns the rotor by a single position before correcting it, thinking nothing of it. That mistake ricochets across the Atlantic like a rifle shot. Back in Hut 8, Joan sees it instantly. The drift pattern isn't random. It's not noise. It's not atmospheric interference. It's operator panic. She draws a final line through her model, then circles the convergence point, the exact moment where the flawed key reuse and the timing drift overlap. Her voice cuts through the room. "I can get the day key." Her supervisor pales. "The entire key? If the operator keeps the same pattern on the next transmission, yes." The duty officer bolts for the phone. The Admiralty must be notified. But Joan isn't done. She adds another layer to her lattice. U-boat traffic density, Wolfpack spacing, their known movement timeline. She overlays convoy routes, weather patterns, the current Admiralty diversions based on last night's decrypt. Then she stops. The picture is horrifying. If the Germans shift their Wolfpack east, just 20 nautical miles, the next convoy, ONS 176, will sail into a kill zone big enough to guarantee mass casualties. Hut 8's supervisor whispers, "Dear God." Joan circles the danger zone in red pencil. "They're repositioning," she says. "This drift is the beginning." Her voice tightens. "If we lose the key before the next intercept, the Admiralty will have no way to warn ONS 176. Someone asks, barely audible, "How long do we have?" She checks the intercept timestamps. 80 minutes. Joan replies, "Maybe less." She slides a clean sheet of paper in front of her. "Prepare a priority signal to London, and tell the bomb room to stand by. We're going to push those machines until they scream." Her supervisor looks at her, truly looks at her, as though seeing the full extent of her talent for the first time. "Clarke, can you really extract a full key from a drift pattern?" She doesn't blink. "No," a long beat. "But I can approximate it, and that approximation might save an entire convoy. If she can get it in time." Joan pulls the next intercept toward her as the hut erupts into frantic motion. Telephones ringing, runners sprinting, machines spinning up to full speed. She braces her pencil, waiting for the next German transmission, waiting for Rotman to make another mistake, waiting for the pattern to confirm itself, or collapse entirely. Outside, thunder rolls across the Buckinghamshire sky. Inside, Joan Clarke prepares for the most important calculation of her life. The moment Joan finishes the last line of her approximation, a tremor runs through Hut 8, an almost physical vibration as the bomb room slams into full operation. From across the courtyard, the machines thunder like an oncoming train, rotors spinning so violently the floorboards beneath them quiver. Every second counts now. Joan barely has time to breathe before another intercept is placed on her desk, still warm from the decoding machine. She snatches it up, scanning the header, her pulse hammering. Timestamp 9:14. Source, U-744. Operator signature, 12-584/P. She exhales sharply. "It's him," she says. "The same operator. He's transmitting again." A half circle of analysts forms around her, tense, silent. Joan digs in. 5-letter groups. Spacing, start time drift, rotor misalignment, correction attempt. And then, there it is. A repeat of the same timing slip, barely perceptible, but real. It hits her like a spark to dry powder. He's copying his own mistake. Her supervisor leans in. Meaning he thinks the delay is atmospheric interference. She looks up, face flushed with adrenaline. He doesn't realize the Enigma is bleeding information. The duty officer bolts, shouting toward the telephone desk. Signal London. Clarke confirms operator error persists. Repeat, persists. Joan doesn't wait. She overlays the new drift onto her previous model. The lines tighten. What had been an approximation begins to crystallize into something sharper, more stable. A usable key. She scribbles faster. Behind her, the hut swells with noise, printers clattering, telephones ringing, officers barking orders. But Joan is in a different world now, one narrowed to pure logic and the thin thread of human imperfection woven into the German cipher. A Wren approaches, breathless. Fresh weather report for the ONS 176 route. Heavy fog forming off Greenland. Joan freezes. Fog. It's the one condition that makes convoys nearly invisible to reconnaissance, and nearly defenseless against torpedoes. She marks it mentally. Fog means the convoy can't rely on spotters. Fog means sonar is muddied. Fog means the only shield they have left is her. Her pencil scrapes the page. Rotor offset variance. 0.27. Likely reuse big ram. FQ/AG. Misaligned position correction, +1R. She feels the lattice snap into place, a perfect match. It's like hearing a lock click open in a silent room. Her breath trembles as she whispers, I have it. The hut falls silent. Her supervisor steps forward, voice low. You're certain? Joan circles the final figure with a decisive stroke. Yes. This is the Atlantic key. The Admiralty courier sprints to the door, nearly slipping on the wet floor. The message must travel immediately, first to the Operational Intelligence Center, then to Western Approaches Command, then to every destroyer escort shadowing ONS 176 across the fog-choked sea. But Joan isn't done. She spreads the latest decrypted fragments across her desk. The U-boats are forming a new line, wolfpack Luthen, stretching east to west like a steel gate across the convoy's path. She whispers, they're pivoting, closing the trap. Her supervisor studies the decrypted bearing numbers. If ONS 176 stays on course, they'll be slaughtered. Joan finishes. She flips another sheet, another fragment, another piece of a picture forming like a nightmare developing in real time. But if we shift the convoy south by 20 miles, she draws a swooping arc across the map. They'll pass underneath the wolfpack, completely hidden, and the fog will hide them from periscopes, from aircraft, from everything. A runner dashes in with word from the bomb room. Break confirmed. Clarke's key checks out. The hut erupts in cheers. Relief, adrenaline, disbelief. But Joan barely hears it, because with the newly unlocked key, more messages begin pouring in, and one of them stops her cold. It's short, urgent, rushed. A U-boat commander reporting a sonar contact, faint, uncertain. Her blood chills. If they've sensed the convoy, even by accident, she scans the bearing again. No. Not the convo, something else, something closer. Her voice drops. They've spotted one of our escorts. The hut goes silent, because if the Germans know an escort is nearby, it means they'll tighten formation, they'll alter bearings, they'll hunt harder, and ONS 176 is still sailing blind toward them. Joan pushes back from her desk so abruptly her chair skids. We have to update the Admiralty immediately. The convoy must change course again, 5 miles farther south. Her supervisor hesitates. That's a drastic diversion. It's the only way they stay invisible. The duty officer lifts the phone, hand shaking. And yet Joan can feel it in her gut. The Germans are restless, suspicious. One good sonar sweep, one stray echo, one curious radio man. The Germans are inches from realizing their wolfpack has lost the convoy entirely. And if they realize that, they will start shifting patterns again, correcting procedures, rotating keys. The window will slam shut. Time is evaporating. Every second is war. Joan grips the edge of the table. If we don't get another intercept within the next 30 minutes, she says quietly, we lose the Atlantic. Her supervisor meets her eyes. What are you saying? She swallows. I'm saying the next transmission from U-744 will decide everything. The room freezes. Because somewhere in the frigid Atlantic, that radio man, rushing, overworked, and unaware of the fate hanging on his fingertips, is about to send one more message. And Joan Clarke is poised to catch it, or watch the ocean swallow another convoy whole. 9:42 hours. The air in Hut 8 is suffocating, not from cigarette smoke, or the heat radiating off the machines, though both hang heavy, but from anticipation. A ticking, invisible pressure, a collective heartbeat held in suspension. Everyone is waiting for one thing, A new intercept. A single burst of German wireless traffic. A message that will either confirm Joan's breakthrough or erase it. Joan keeps her eyes fixed on the clock above the far wall. The second hand crawls in a slow, merciless arc. Her pencil spins anxiously between her fingers. She doesn't even register she's doing it. The duty officer hovers near the door, nerves fraying. If we go 15 more minutes without a signal, the Admiralty will have to assume the key is stale. Joan shakes her head. No. The Wolfpack is repositioning. They'll transmit. They have to. Her voice is calm, but her knuckles are white. Across the courtyard, thunder rumbles. Not storm thunder. The bomb machines tearing through permutations. The floor vibrates. The windows quiver. Then, footsteps. Rapid. Urgent. A wren bursts into Hut 8, soaked from the sprint, clutching a flimsy sheet. Intercept. Fresh take from U-744. The room stills as if someone has cut the power. The sheet lands in Joan's hands. She pulls it close, breath steadying. 5-letter groups. Operator signature. Transmission duration. Timestamp. Her eyes narrow. There it is. The drift. Not just a repeat. A worsening. A longer hesitation at the start of the message. A tremor in the operator's timing. A tiny but fatal delay. Like the moment before a dam breaks. Someone whispers, "He's rattled." But Joan sees more. She sees a pattern forming beneath the timing error. A secondary inconsistency in the rotor turnover. A misfire in the machine stepping that shouldn't happen unless the operator is correcting under pressure. Her pencil glides across the page. Drift value, 0.43. Rotor turnover variance, +2 R-1L. Key reuse probability, 62%. Then a realization slams into her. He's copying yesterday's initialization line. Her supervisor stares. That's impossible. No one reuses the previous day's line. They do if they're panicked. Joan fires back. Or if the commandant is breathing down their neck about missing a rendezvous. Another intercept arrives. Shorter, messier, even more rushed. Joan overlays the two messages. The match is undeniable. Her voice is barely above a whisper, but carries through the hut like a shot. He's compromised the entire Atlantic Enigma net. Shock ripples outward. The supervisor grabs the sheet. Are you telling me? Yes. That one operator just gave us access to the entire Wolfpack alignment. A courier sprints toward the telephone bank. The bomb room receives new parameters. Western Approach's command is alerted. But Joan isn't finished. She performs a rapid deconvolution on the drift pattern, mapping it against the partial decrypts already streaming in. Numbers align. Bearings crystallize. A lattice she's been building all morning finally becomes whole, complete enough to predict movement. She slams her pencil down. Here, this is their pivot point. This is where they'll turn north to intercept ONS-176. The duty officer squints. But that would put them right here. Joan interrupts, tapping a point on the map. Then she lifts her eyes. Which means ONS-176 needs to turn now. 11 miles south, minimum. Her supervisor pales. That's a dangerous maneuver in this weather. It's more dangerous not to. A call crackles over the hut's internal line. Western Approach's command. Urgent. Joan takes the receiver. This is unusual. Cryptanalysts don't talk directly to commands, but emergency overrides formality. The voice on the other end belongs to a naval officer with a clipped, tense tone. Bletchley, confirm. Course alteration for ONS-176 is necessary? Joan feels an entire convoy hanging on her next breath. Confirmed, she says. Immediate southern diversion. 11 miles minimum. Fob will cover them. You'll slip under the Wolfpack. A long silence. Then, understood. Diverting now. She lowers the receiver. The hut exhales as one, but Joan stiffens. The second intercept, the rushed one, holds something else. A set of coordinates at the bottom. Unusual. Out of pattern. A rendezvous point not yet used. She circles it. This isn't for the Wolfpack, she says slowly. Her supervisor frowns. What is it then? She rereads the coordinates. Her stomach drops. It's a refueling rendezvous. A resupply U-tanker. One of the milch cows. The backbone of Wolfpack endurance. If the Wolfpack meets that tanker, they'll extend operations another week. More convoys at risk. More lives at stake. She lifts her head. We've found their lifeline. The room freezes. Because if the Royal Navy intercepts that U-tanker, the Wolfpack collapses. U-boats starve. Operations halt. The Atlantic changes. Joan pushes the coordinates toward her supervisor, heart pounding. We can end this. Right here. Right now. Her supervisor turns to the duty officer. Signal the Admiralty. Priority black. Joan watches the message leave Hut 8, carried into the storm. Out in the Atlantic, destroyers begin altering course, knifing through fog in search of a tanker that has no idea it's already doomed. And as the last of the decrypts flutter across her desk, Joan realizes something. The operator aboard U-744, the man whose mistakes unlocked the Atlantic, is about to discover what happens when the hunted become the hunters. 11:06 hours, mid-Atlantic. Fog blankets the ocean like a shroud, dense, rolling, impenetrable. The destroyer HMS Tay, escorting ONS 176, cuts through the gray void with engines throttled low to avoid wake detection. Every man aboard is painfully aware that something is happening, something bigger than weather, bigger than the convoy's quiet diversion. They've received new orders from Western Approaches Command. Unusual orders, intercept coordinates, high priority, but no one knows why. The fog muffles every sound except the slow churn of propellers and the occasional steel groan of the ship flexing against the swells. Men peer into the gray nothingness, scanning for silhouettes, periscopes, or torpedoes. Range to target? The captain asks, leaning over the sonar operator. Still unclear, sir. Heavy thermal layering. The captain grimaces. Fog is bad. Fog with layering is worse. Then, a faint contact ping. Hold, repeat that, the captain whispers. The sonar operator's eyes widen. New contact. Large hull. Stationary. Bearing 091. The captain's blood runs cold. A stationary U-boat in the middle of the Atlantic? Impossible. Unless, he snaps his head up. Milch cow, he breathes. It's a tanker. The entire bridge stills. This is the target. This is what the Admiralty diverted them for. And somewhere, somehow, someone on shore has given them the one piece of intelligence that could change everything. Bletchley Park, HUD 8. Joan grips the edge of the table as she receives confirmation from the Western Approaches liaison. HMS Tay has contact. Her supervisor stares at her. How accurate were your coordinates? She swallows. Within 2 miles. In naval warfare, that's not accuracy. That's a sniper shot. Her chest tightens. God, they actually found it. She glances at the clock. Every second now determines whether the U-tanker escapes or disappears beneath the Atlantic forever. Aboard the U-tanker, U-490, the German supply crew works in eerie silence. Fog cloaks everything beyond 20 meters. Their commandant stands on the bridge, tense, scanning the mist. Keep transmissions to minimum, he orders sharply. We cannot afford detection. His radioman nods, finger hovering nervously above the Enigma keys. Then, a ripple of water, a vibration. The commandant snaps his binoculars upward. What was that? Before the radioman can answer, a deafening blast tears through the fog. Depth charges. The sea erupts. The tanker lurches violently. Crewmen tumble across the deck. Alarm! Alarm! Torchvorgang! Dive! 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 But the tanker is massive, sluggish. It will not submerge fast enough. Not today. Above them, HMS Tay charges through the fog, dropping a second spread of charges in a perfect bracket around the German behemoth. The ocean convulses. Then, a plume of dark oil bursts through the surface. The men aboard HMS Tay erupt in a ragged cheer. They've crippled the tanker, but they're not finished. Bring us around, the captain shouts. Prepare for the kill shot. The stern gun crew swings into position. The tanker surfaces partially, broken, bleeding oil like a wounded whale. A single shell slams into its conning tower. Silence, then a slow final roll, and the great steel body slips beneath the waves. The North Atlantic swallows it whole. Back in HUD 8, Joan receives the signal. Tanker sunk. Wolfpack operation severely disrupted. The room explodes with energy. Cheers, hugs, relief. Months of exhaustion briefly dissolve into elation. But Joan doesn't celebrate. She sinks slowly into her chair, overwhelmed, because she knows what this means. No resupply. No extended patrol, no fuel, no torpedoes. The wolfpacks, those terrors of the Atlantic, are suddenly, profoundly vulnerable. Her supervisor places a hand on her shoulder. You did this, he says quietly. You just changed the course of the convoy war. Joan nods, voice barely a breath. Yes, but it's not over, because as the news spreads across U-boat command, the Germans will realize something is wrong, very wrong. Someone is reading their mail. Someone is predicting their movements, and the operator aboard U-744, the man whose mistakes opened the floodgates, is about to learn the full cost of those mistakes, not from a reprimand, not from a captain's fury, but from the sudden silence of the Atlantic, a silence he can't explain, a silence he fears, because when a wolf pack loses its supply lifeline, it becomes prey. 13:20 hours, mid-Atlantic, aboard U-744. Radioman Kurt Rotman feels the silence before he fully understands it. The fog outside has thickened into a chalk-white wall pressing against the periscope. The boat rocks gently in the swells, the engines barely ticking over at silent running. Every man aboard is tense, waiting for a message from command, waiting for confirmation of their next coordinated turn. But nothing comes. Rodman adjusts his headphones, drumming his fingers nervously on the Enigma housing. He switches frequencies. Then again. Nothing. It's not atmospheric fade. It's not interference. It's absence. He glances at the commandant, who watches him with growing impatience. Well? The captain demands. Sir? Wolfpack Luthen is not transmitting. The commandant stiffens. Impossible. Rodman swallows. Sir? I think we are alone. The words hang in the cramped air like a death sentence. Alone. In fog. Low on fuel. And with no sign of the U-tanker they were meant to rendezvous with. Rodman tries again to raise command, sweat beading at his hairline. Still nothing. He doesn't know it yet, but the tanker is gone. The Wolfpack is unraveling, and the convoy they were hunting has slipped beneath them like a phantom. Bletchley Park, HUD 8. Joan receives the latest decrypted message fragment at 13:47 hours. It's from a U-boat commander within Luthen, broadcasting a confused status report. No contact with supply group. Suspect navigational error. Request updated bearings. Joan taps the intercept lightly with her pencil. They're blind, she murmurs. Completely blind. Her supervisor leans over the map table. What happens next? Joan studies the growing web of U-boat positions, scattered now, drifting without coordination, their old plans useless. The Wolfpacks will scatter, she says softly. Without fuel, without a rally point, they can't hold formation. They'll turn home, or try to. And the convoy? Joan checks the latest Admiralty report. The men of ONS 176, the merchant sailors who had no idea death had been waiting for them in the fog, are now sailing into clear water, safe. Her throat tightens, all because of one flaw, one drift, one moment of human imperfection across thousands of miles of ocean. A junior analyst approaches, holding fresh decrypts. There's another one, ma'am. This one's unusual. Joan reads the sheet. It's from U-744. Multiple attempts to signal group have failed. Believe equipment malfunction. Will attempt repair. Her pulse quickens. He's going to open the Enigma. In HUD 8, several heads snap toward her. Her supervisor blinks. If he opens the machine, he'll reset his settings. Joan finishes. He'll fix the drift. And once he does, the window closes, she says. For good. Joan sets down the sheet. For a long moment, the room is silent. The victory is real. Enormous, decisive, a turning point in the Battle of the Atlantic. The kind historians will point to decades from now. But Joan knows the truth behind every victory. It doesn't last forever. Someone fixes the mistake. The door shuts. The pattern disappears. The enemy adapts. But that's the nature of code breaking. It's a race against time, against machines, against human minds on the other side of the ocean. A race fought in pencil marks, statistical lattices, and the quiet hum of logic. Her supervisor speaks gently. You've done enough for today, Joan. She looks at him. No, she says softly. Not until the window fully closes. The duty officer, tired, red-eyed, glances at the intercept machine. It will close any minute now. At 14:03 hours it happens. A fresh transmission arrives, this time with timing so clean it's practically surgical. The drift is gone, the flaw corrected, the operator perfect. Joan circles the timestamp. It's over, she says. Then she adds, but so is the Wolfpack, because the tanker is gone. The convoy is safe. The U-boats, scattered and weakened, are limping home. And the balance of the Atlantic, for the first time in years, has shifted. Not because of a battle, not because of a fleet, not because of a commander, but because a woman with a pencil and a mind sharper than steel found a thread in the enemy's armor, and pulled. Her supervisor steps beside her. You realize, he says quietly, this will never be public. Joan nods. I didn't do it to be known. She gathers her papers, her models, her lattices, the scribbled trails of logic that saved hundreds of lives that day. I did it because it had to be done. Outside, the fog begins to lift, and in the North Atlantic, ships that should have died steam onward toward England, unaware of the woman who guided them through the jaws of a wolf pack.